The first rays of the Texas sun slipped through the high windows of Iron Shield Police Training Academy, painting long streaks of light across the polished gym floor. Every weekday began with the same rhythm. Heavy bags swung beneath disciplined punches. Instructors barked commands that echoed through the building, and recruits hurried from one station to another, determined to prove they belonged. It was a place built on discipline, responsibility, and the belief that every officer stronger than they arrived. Officer Ryan Carter was already the center of attention. At 32, Carter had earned a reputation that reached beyond the academy walls. He had received commendations for bravery, appeared in recruitment campaigns, and was known for his confidence inside the training cage. Younger officers admired his athletic ability, while social media clips of his sparring sessions attracted thousands of views. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who had spent years hearing applause, and somewhere along the way, confidence had slowly turned into arrogance. Several recruits followed him through the gym, laughing at every joke before he even finished saying it, across the room almost invisible to everyone else. Maya Brooks quietly pushed a mop across the edge of the training mats. She arrived every morning before dawn, long before the first patrol cars rolled into the parking lot. By the time the recruits entered the building, every hallway was spotless, every locker room had been cleaned, and every training area was prepared for another demanding day. Her maintenance uniform was plain and faded from years of work. A small name tag read simply, Maya. Most people never looked beyond that. Some nodded politely. Most walked past without noticing her at all. Maya never seemed bothered. She worked with quiet purpose, carefully moving around officers as they trained, picking up discarded water bottles, wiping away muddy footprints, and making sure the academy remained as professional as the officers who represented it. One young recruit accidentally knocked over a rack of medicine balls. Without hesitation, Maya stopped mopping and helped him stack every ball back into place. "Thank you, ma'am." The nervous recruit said. She smiled warmly. "No problem, we've all had mornings like that." The recruit smiled back before jogging toward his instructor. Watching from across the room, Sergeant Daniel Hayes noticed the exchange. Hayes had served in law enforcement for more than 25 years. Experience had taught him that true character often revealed itself in the smallest moments, not during ceremonies or speeches, but in simple acts of patience and respect. He gave Maya a quiet nod. She returned it before continuing her work. Meanwhile, Officer Carter finished another sparring round to loud applause. His gloves came off as one of the recruits handed him a towel. "Nobody's made me work this hard all week." Carter joked, grinning. The recruits laughed. Another officer raised a phone to record. "You're making us all look bad, sir." Carter shrugged with a smile. Somebody has to set the standard. As the group continued talking, his eyes wandered across the gym until they landed on Maya, slowly cleaning near the edge of the sparring cage. An amused smile crossed his face. He walked toward her, while several recruits instinctively followed, curious about whatever he planned to do next. "Hey," Carter called loudly. Maya stopped and looked up. "Good morning, officer. You've been watching this train a little." He crossed his arms. "You ever boxed before?" She answered politely once or twice. The recruits burst into laughter. Carter chuckled, as if he'd just heard the funniest joke of the day. Once or twice she nodded, a long time ago. He looked around at the growing crowd. "You hear that? Maintenance thinks she's got hands." More laughter echoed across the gym. Maya didn't react. She simply rested both hands on the mop handle and waited for him to finish. Carter stepped closer. "So tell me if I invited you into that cage." He pointed toward the center mat, where dozens of recruits were now watching. "Would you last 30 seconds? The room grew quieter. Some officers smiled. Others exchanged uncertain glances. Sergeant Hayes looked up from across the gym, sensing the conversation had shifted from harmless teasing to something more uncomfortable. Maya remained calm. "I came here to do my job." "Oh, come on," Carter replied with a grin. "It's just for fun." Several phones quietly appeared. Nobody wanted to miss what they thought would become another entertaining story. Inside the academy, Carter folded his arms confidently. "So what do you say?" The question lingered in the air long after Officer Ryan Carter spoke it. "So what do you say?" Every conversation in the gym seemed to fade into silence. The steady rhythm of gloves striking heavy bags slowed. Even the recruits stretching along the far wall found themselves watching the woman standing beside a simple mop and bucket. Maya Brooks looked at Carter for a brief moment before lowering her eyes to the floor she had been cleaning. "I appreciate the offer, officer," she said calmly, "but I'm here to do my job." Her voice wasn't nervous, it wasn't defensive. It was respectful. That answer should have ended the conversation. Instead, Carter laughed. "You hear that he called to the recruits? She's too smart to get embarrassed." Several recruits laughed with him, though not as confidently as before. A few exchanged uncertain glances. They respected Carter, but something about teasing a maintenance employee in front of everyone felt unnecessary. Maya simply picked up her mop and continued working. She moved with the same steady rhythm she always had. Long, smooth strokes. No wasted movement, no frustration. No attempt to prove anything. Sergeant Daniel Hayes noticed it immediately. For 26 years, he had trained police officers from every background imaginable. He had seen people lose their tempers over spilled coffee, broken equipment, and harmless jokes. But Maya, she never reacted, not once as she pushed the mop across the polished concrete haze. Quietly observed the way she carried herself. Balanced posture, relaxed shoulders. Eyes constantly scanning her surroundings, without appearing to. Every movement looked natural. Almost practiced. Officer Carter eventually shrugged and walked back toward the center cage, still smiling. As recruits gathered around him for another training round, within minutes the academy returned to its normal routine. Commands echoed through the building. Pads cracked beneath punches. The smell of fresh coffee drifted from the break room. Maya worked quietly through it all. As she reached the equipment storage area, one of the younger recruits struggled to move a heavy rack, loaded with protective shields. He planted both feet and pulled with everything he had. The rack barely moved without saying a word. Maya rested her mop against the wall. "Here," she said kindly. Together they pushed the rack, rolled smoothly across the floor. The recruit blinked. "I've been fighting the thing for 5 minutes." Maya smiled. "Sometimes it's easier when someone helps." The young officer laughed. "I guess you're stronger than you look." She simply nodded. Strength isn't always loud. Those words stayed with him long after he walked away. Near the front desk, Sergeant Hayes heard the conversation again. He watched her. Most people carried weight with effort. Maya carried it with technique. There was a difference later that morning. One of the chain mounts holding a heavy punching bag suddenly slipped loose. The steel hook twisted sideways, causing the bag to lean dangerously toward the floor. Several recruits stepped back. One instructor reached for a ladder. Before anyone could react, Maya calmly walked over. She studied the mount for only a second. Standing on the balls of her feet, she reached overhead, adjusted the carabiner, tightened the connection with practiced precision, and secured the entire assembly in less than 15 seconds. The bag hung perfectly straight again. The instructor looked surprised. "Where do you learn that my father always believed?" Maya answered softly, "If something is worth fixing, it's worth fixing, right?" She picked up her mop and quietly returned to work. Sergeant Hayes couldn't stop thinking about what he had just witnessed. That wasn't luck, it wasn't guesswork. It was experience, years of it. His eyes drifted toward Maya's hands as she wrung out the mop. The skin across her knuckles wasn't soft. Old scars crossed both hands. 2 knuckles on her right hand sat slightly flatter than the others, as though they had healed after injuries long ago. Those weren't injuries from cleaning floors. Hayes had seen hands like that before. Retired boxers, military instructors, veteran defensive tactics trainers, people who had spent years learning control instead of chaos. As the morning continued, another recruit accidentally dropped a 40-pound training vest from an upper shelf without even looking. Maya instinctively caught it before it struck the recruit's leg. She lowered it gently to the ground. "You okay?" she asked. The recruit stared for a moment. "Yeah, thank you." "No problem." She smiled and returned to mopping, as though nothing unusual had happened. Hayes folded his arms. Every small moment added another piece to a puzzle. No one else seemed interested in solving. Officer Carter, meanwhile, remained the loudest voice in the building. His confidence grew with every compliment from the recruits surrounding him. He had no idea that while everyone else saw a quiet, black woman cleaning the academy floors, one experienced officer had begun to see something entirely different, someone whose patience wasn't weakness, whose humility wasn't fear and whose quiet confidence hinted at a story far greater than anyone in that room could imagine. Officer Ryan Carter looked around the academy with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. The earlier exchange had spread through the building, faster than any training rumor. By lunchtime, nearly every recruit had heard that the quiet maintenance worker had answered his challenge with a single sentence. That left the gym speechless. "Only if you promise not to cry." Most people laughed when they repeated it. They assumed it had been nothing more than a clever comeback. Officer Carter intended to prove exactly that. As the afternoon defensive tactics session wrapped up, he stepped into the center of the gym and clapped his hands loudly. "Everybody over here for a minute." The recruits gathered around the sparring cage, curious to see what was happening. Some instructors paused their conversations, while others leaned against the walls with folded arms. A few officers instinctively pulled out their phones, expecting another entertaining moment to post online. Across the room, Maya Brooks quietly continued wiping down the edge of the training mats. She never looked up. Officer Carter smiled as the small crowd grew larger. "There she is," he pointed toward Maya. "Our future heavyweight champion." A wave of laughter rolled through the room. Maya calmly finished the section she was cleaning before placing the disinfectant bottle back onto her cart. She wasn't trying to ignore him. She simply refused to let someone else's behavior control her own. Carter walked toward her with slow, confident steps, He said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Confidence is a good thing." He paused just long enough for the cameras to focus on him. But confidence without ability, he shrugged, "That's just comedy." Several recruits laughed again, though softer this time. Not everyone looked comfortable. Maya met his eyes with the same calm expression she had worn all morning. "I've always believed respect costs nothing," she answered gently. One of the younger recruits lowered his phone. Another quietly glanced towards Sergeant Daniel Hayes. The veteran instructor hadn't smiled once. Officer Carter picked up a fresh bottle of water from a nearby cooler. He twisted the cap open without breaking eye contact. He slowly poured the water across the section of floor Maya had spent the last 10 minutes cleaning. The clear stream spread across the polished concrete before soaking into her freshly mopped path. "Looks like you missed a spot." The laughter this time was noticeably weaker. Maya looked down at the puddle for a moment. Nobody moved. She reached for her mop. Without a single complaint, without a sigh, without even a frown. She cleaned the water exactly as she had cleaned every other mess that day. Slow, patient. Professional Officer Carter stepped forward again. His muddy training shoes left fresh footprints across the wet floor. There he smirked. "Now you really missed a spot." A few recruits looked away. Others remained silent. Sergeant Hayes finally spoke. "That's enough, Ryan." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The room immediately became quiet. Carter glanced toward him with an amused grin. "Relax, Sergeant. We're just having a little fun." Hayes didn't answer immediately. Instead, he watched Maya, not her face. Her breathing steady, measured, completely controlled. He had seen that level of emotional discipline before. In officers who had faced life-threatening situations, in military instructors who stayed calm under impossible pressure, and in people who understood. That true strength wasn't measured by how quickly someone fought back, but by how wisely they chose their battles. Maya finished cleaning the floor and stood upright. She looked around the academy. Young recruits, veteran officers, instructors, every person in that room represented a profession built on service to others. She smiled, not with anger, not with pride, but with quiet understanding. "My mother always told me something," she said softly, "when people wear a badge. They carry more than authority." The room listened. "They carry someone's trust." Her words settled over the academy in complete silence. "A uniform doesn't make someone honorable." She looked towards several young recruits standing near the cage. "The choices we make while wearing it do." No one laughed, no one spoke. Even Officer Carter's smile faded for just a moment. Sergeant Hayes slowly nodded. Those weren't the words of someone trying to win an argument. They were the words of someone who genuinely respected what policing was supposed to represent. Then Carter forced another smile and pointed toward the sparring cage. "One final time, fine. If you're so confident, step into the cage." Maya quietly rested the mop against the wall. She removed her work gloves one finger at a time. Then she looked directly at Officer Carter. A small, peaceful smile appeared on her face. "I'll keep my word," she said. "I only hope you'll keep yours." Every conversation inside the academy stopped. Not a single phone lowered. Not a single recruit looked away. For the first time that day, it wasn't curiosity filling the room. It was anticipation, because everyone could feel that the next few moments were about to reveal a truth none of them had expected. Sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest voice or the one demanding attention. Sometimes it's the person who chooses dignity over anger, patience over pride, and respect over revenge. Those are the qualities that inspire trust. Whether someone wears a badge, carries a mop, or simply chooses to do the right thing when everyone else is watching. What do you think happens when Officer Carter and Maya finally step into the sparring cage? Was Carter simply overconfident, or do you believe Maya has been hiding something all along? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and let me know what kind of justice and inspiration story you'd like to see next. Your ideas could inspire the next video.